This is a collection of stories.
LANDOVERLEGEnd Studios presents.
I've been through a lot.
The I Can't Make This Up podcast. By Big T.
Yeah, I'm aware. And that's why I don't mind taking their cash.
Stack the deck against you.
Whatever.
You're not the Sandman anymore. That was a long time ago. He's gone, Grady.
You're not gonna change my mind. Besides, I think the Sandman may want to wake up one more time. Let's just say he's got some unfinished business. So, you still got a locker for me or what?
You're nuts! I don't even have a locker for me! Paige is gonna have my
Conversation,
hand.
they could start out talking about books, and then next thing you know, we talking about dinosaurs or whatever. You know.
Yep. we could cross a lot of everything off. Absolutely. I'm down with it. Let's do it.
Most definitely. So, James Quinn, I would like to thank you for joining me today on the I Can't Make This Up podcast. This is a podcast where we pretty much do what we want and have fun while we doing it. And I just want to say I appreciate you for taking time out to join me today. You and a accredited actor, writer, producer, and family man, if I'm not mistaken. And according to your background, you look like a big wrestling fan as well.
I'm a huge wrestling fan. I probably don't hide it so well, huh? I'm set up in my office right now, man. This is just years of collecting, man. It's been a pastime of mine for a long time. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Like I said, I appreciate you for joining me today, man. It's actually an honor and a privilege to have an accredited actor on my show. I believe you're the second actor I've had on so far.
Okay. Oh, I'm happy to be here then, man. We're breaking some fresh ground on this, huh?
Exactly.
I like it.
So, why don't you give me a little background on yourself?
Yeah, man. I'm an actor. I'm from the Pittsburgh area, but I also have a background in sales and marketing, and construction. I'm kind of well-rounded, man. I used to be in the ice hockey arena business. I grew up playing a lot of sports like ice hockey, amateur boxing, a lot of baseball, a lot of soccer. So we did a lot of things in the Pittsburgh area, man. It's a big sports town. So that's, kind of been my whole thing, my life. Then I got into construction simultaneously while doing my acting thing and kind of growing both crafts to see which one really took off. And then construction, as of the last decade or so, took a back seat because of the decline in the power companies and the power plants in general, more particular. And so acting has grown, especially in the Pittsburgh, Ohio, West Virginia areas, New York. These are places I can get to fairly easy. And it's a hell of a market anymore. So we can, we're all growing, man. Streaming has made things a lot easier for everyone. And social media has really opened a lot of doors. So I'm having a good time, man. This last decade plus, just honing in on my craft and becoming the actor that I am, producer, writer. Like I said, I'm a big family guy. I spend a lot of time with my family too. So trying to find that happy medium, man, that's the tough thing, but it's a fun thing. I mean, you're a family guy yourself, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I don't have any kids myself, but I have 9 nieces and 11 nephews.
That's a big family. That's
Yes,
a family.
yes, sir, yes, sir. We close, and it's always fun until they get to that age to where all they want is money from you.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't bring me over any more shirts. You know what I mean? Just give me the cash.
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah, my second to youngest nephews, man, they got to a point to like they would just call me and say, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Hey, what's going on? Could you cash out me $20?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna hang up and we're gonna try this again."
It's money first, right? I love it. That's 2021 for you.
Yes,
Uh,
2021, that's for sure. So,
Different day.
let me ask you this: how was it growing up in what part of Pennsylvania you from?
I'm in Pittsburgh, so
Pittsburgh.
more of southern Pennsylvania, not far from the West Virginia and Ohio borders. Yeah, man, it was like I said, it's a sports town. It's a middle class working town. You know what I mean? A lot of power plants, steel mills. We were a leader of the steel industry in the 70s and 80s. So I was a kid of the 80s. So I come in on the tail end of that. My family being in construction too. So I was really brought up around a hard working labor community and family. And that's what Pittsburgh is. It's the steel town, so we really learned very quickly how to labor, how to work, how to really just earn your keep. And I think it's big. I think it's not always instilled in today's game with people. I feel very fortunate to be able to come in on the back end of things there, and just kind of knowing what our not only our town but our country was founded on was a lot of hard labor. That's Pittsburgh. That's Cleveland. That's Maryland. You know what I mean? That's the East Coast for you, man. We were hard-working towns, and that's what we did with Pittsburgh. Big Penguins fan, big Steelers fan. I am a Pirates fan. They don't win the big one for me, or really, they kind of drop our hearts every year. But I mean, I still want to see something big happen there, But I'm a hometown guy, so I mean that's Pittsburgh in a nutshell.
I was going to ask, would you choose hockey over football? But it seems like you're rooting for both same amount, I guess.
I do, man. But if I have to be pushed in the corner, I'm a diehard Penguins fan till the end. Big time with hockey, man. I grew up playing hockey. I've been around it. I have a lot of friends within the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. My grandfather was very close with a lot of those guys, and so I've gotten to be around and work with quite a few of those guys over the years, and being in the ice hockey arena and being a hockey player. So that's first and foremost for me. But man, I still love the Steelers and the Pirates. I'm black and gold, So we probably have a little bit of a rivalry going on. Are you a Ravens fan?
No.
Okay.
Washington football team.
Hey, there you go. I like it, man. I like it. But I like to meet new people, man. I don't have anything against, Baltimore. I just love my own town, But that's cool to see with Washington. I have no problem there whatsoever. That's awesome.
What's dope about Baltimore is that originally they were the Baltimore Colts until they moved to Indiana, and
Right.
a lot of people don't know that history. And that was a championship team back in the day.
Oh,
So
for sure, man.
so when the
For sure.
Ravens,
And then Cleveland got uprooted and moved into Baltimore. It was kind of musical chairs, right?
exactly, so
But
it's a lot of history if you pay attention or if you actually do the research on it.
absolutely there is, man. I love the old school. People don't realize where all the roots began. I look at like the Hartford Whalers and the Winnipeg Jets, and people don't remember, how that all began in hockey. And it's been the same thing in football and baseball. Just because a team leaves, that doesn't mean there's not a history.
Man, I love going to see the Capitals play, man. Just the
Yeah.
environment is more electrifying or I say more stimulating than watching it at home.
Oh,
I'm
for sure.
I'm always rooting for them, but me skating personally, I think ice is my arch nemesis, man.
Oh, man.
I can't balance for nothing.
It takes a lot, man. It takes a lot, man. But I enjoy watching the Caps too, man. It's one of my favorite rivalries with the Penguins, man, because there's just two excellent teams, man. Washington has come so far in the last 15 years to become a major player in the game, man. They are a contender almost every year. You got Ovechkin, who's a beast, and they built a heck of a team around him. I guess Wilson isn't always making friends, but I kind of dig him, man. I like his style,
Man, he's not gonna have any teeth in the next few years. He keeps playing like that.
He's definitely gonna need some dental work, man. But that's old school hockey, man. That's what people forget. That's what that was founded on. The 1970s hockey and 60s, man. That's all it was. Nobody had teeth.
Yeah, you're right. They also used to, smoke cigarettes and drink before every game or during,
Yeah. Training was at a minimal, man. They went on sheer talent and anger, right?
Bad. So, you came up, family did construction, and you kind of, got backdoored into that. And then how did acting come about?
You know what? I got to do a little bit of acting in my youth as a kid. I did some school plays and what were the grade school years. I did some commercials in high school. Just found myself at the right place at the right time, maybe doing some background work or, running around wearing backpacks for different schools and stuff and promote different products. Not the major. I did a couple pizza commercials, things like that. Now, this was like the 1990s. We're talking mid to late 90s now. So the game wasn't then what it is now in the Pennsylvania area and in Ohio and West Virginia is where it's more leveled now. So you didn't have a lot of opportunities like you have now. You had some things come in periodically. And like I said, I did some background for different films like Sudden Death with Jean-Claude Van Damme was the first film I ever worked on. And so I got to get my teeth wet then, you know. So what happens is 1998 rolls around and I get a big offer in the construction field. My daughter's just being ready to be born. So it's like, it was a no brainer. Like there wasn't a lot of opportunities in acting. So I didn't want to go away from it. There just wasn't anything to go to at the moment. And I was being offered a good paycheck and a great learning experience in the construction field. And so I pursued that. And so for the next 13 years, that's all I would do. It wasn't just a little over a decade ago that I came back into the acting industry when things really picked up in Pennsylvania again and in Pittsburgh in general. And so I found myself traveling into places like Cleveland too, in New York, Erie, the Carolinas a little bit, just up in Philly. Just, you know, there was a lot of opportunities being created that I didn't have 13 years earlier, man. So now you have, even cell phones changed that much. So, if you missed a call for a gig back in the day, man, you missed it. If it wasn't on your answering machine, you missed the gig. And so now they're texting you, they're emailing you, they're sending you a message on Twitter and Facebook. So you have all these different opportunities available that you can get this information in a moment's notice you couldn't get before. And so I found that really, really helped me because I really learned social media well. And I think it's been a great tool for me in marketing myself. And so I get more opportunities that way. Streaming platforms are so much better now. And so I think coming back when I did, excuse me, a little over a decade ago now, was just the right time. I think that 13 years that I was gone, it really wasn't that much of a playing field for a guy like myself, you know what I mean, on the East Coast and not being in LA and not being in New York. I think now's the time, man. I think it's the rise of the independents.
Okay. I never really heard about any like productions going on in West Virginia. Usually when I think of that, I think of like a mining or a coal town, you know, or you know, state.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, there's not a lot of Hollywood films that come through. There are a few, and the ones that have come through have done really well. But there is a lot of independent film. There's a lot of independent music. A lot of comedians are starting to rise from the West Virginia area. So they're quietly making themselves known. And a lot of those guys are working with us in Ohio and West Virginia too. And so we're kind of joining markets a little bit. But I'd say West Virginia has a great independent scene. And I would love to see, there's so many wonderful places to film there that like you just cannot recreate on a set to try to build for shooting. I think Hollywood would be crazy not to go to West Virginia more just because of its locations alone. And the talent's on the rise too. You know, a lot of their actors and, like I said, musicians and comedians are really starting to hone in. They're seeing what we're doing in Pennsylvania and Ohio, and we're not that far away. So we're networking with one another. So we've got a lot of good things going. And I work with a company, one of the better independent companies in West Virginia is out of Parkersburg, West Virginia. It's Dizzy Boy Productions. You know, I headlined a film with them called No Knock List that had Maria Olsen, the horror scream queen, in with us from LA. So they flew her in. They went the extra mile, and they're making themselves known to where they're one of the top companies within the West Virginia area now. I think it's great for the independents. Great town for that.
Yeah, when I was checking your bio, I believe it says you had 52 acting credits, something like that.
Somewhere. They're not all on there, but I think that's what IMDb is saying right now. Yeah. There's probably a dozen plus more that didn't make it on there for one reason or another, and they don't always get there. But yeah, so at least that many. I'm probably 60 plus, more than a dozen commercials. Training videos. We just so many things that aren't on there, but yeah, it's been a lot, and that's just in the last 11 years. You know, so that's been a lot of work that we didn't have prior to that. The things I did before that, you know, you don't even have your work credited for. They don't see it anywhere because it was so long ago. But yeah, man, I'm real fortunate to get to do what I do. But it's like anything else, if you're willing to hustle and travel and go outside of your market too, and really show what you can do, man, there's a place for you. And I'm not afraid to hit the road. I like going up to New York. I don't get to the West Coast as much as I'd like. It's my next thing. I want to get out to LA more and more. I've only been here a few times. But I love what we're doing on the East Coast though, because we're proving, and not even in New York, we're doing it in Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Maryland, because they've had a lot of TV shows come through there. So we're proving that we can do everything that they do in Hollywood, you know, and we do it for less of a budget, and we're showing a really, really well-rounded product, man. The talent is phenomenal. You find the actors that you can find in Pittsburgh, Philly, Cleveland. Cleveland is an awesome market for independent actors that are on the rise. I think it's something that you didn't see 10 and 15 years ago, man. So yeah, we really come a long way.
I've seen a lot of people coming together more, especially independent people who are like, starting from the ground up or, trying to work together and I don't want to say build a conglomerate, but try to pull resources and make things happen for, the people that don't get noticed like they should, when they got talent, but they just don't have the national recognition. So
Correct.
that's actually what I love about podcasting, man. The connections I've been making over the past year have been dope, and seeing everybody,
For sure.
sharing information, willing to give you tips and everything, and then giving you keys to market and then opportunities at the same time. Like, that's what makes everything better, in my opinion.
100%, man. I think that's key. I mean, we've had to come together because let's face it, we don't have the budgets that they do in Hollywood all the time. I work on Hollywood films, but as a filmmaker myself, I don't have the Hollywood budgets. And so, we pull together, like I might know a lot of actors and this guy might not, he might know a lot of locations. And then there's
Mm.
somebody that can get us resources in music, man. And we all come together and build each other up and we help each other with this project and that one. And that project that you're doing is so much better than it could have been. And we're getting all of our names out there and more notoriety instead of just hiding and pretending like you don't see what the guy next to you is doing, man. We're trying to help build people up and show what we can really do as a group, man, instead of just having that me mentality, man. If we work as a team and just really work on showcasing our talents, I think we got a lot further we can go, all of us.
Most definitely. Anybody that has a position or a career, I always tell them like, well, if you just have a regular job, that means you're working for a company. So that means you have an opportunity for growth within the company. And it's like, make yourself one of those people that can't be replaced because you know all this stuff, or, take that experience from doing this job and that job and that job and build your resume up, and your experience helped you grow further. So, like, I'm pretty sure with you, you didn't just become an actor. You started dipping your toes in different parts of the industry, so that way you know how it works when it comes to making deals and structuring and things of that nature.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think for any independent, whether you're an actor, a podcaster, a musician, whatever, I think that first 3 years are crucial, man. That's building your brand, learning your craft, especially networking, meeting the right people that have the same life goals as yourself. And so once you survive that first 3 years, man, I think that's when you're really able to come together as a unit and build off of things. Because I think this first 3 years is when you find a lot of people. I don't want to use the words wash out of the business, but will definitely succumb to the dark side of the business and just say, you know what, I've had enough. I can't do it, because they maybe weren't able to navigate the waters right. And I think just really coming in here and trying to learn it all, man. Learning social media, learning networking, then learning your craft, man. Taking workshops and getting out there and learning from others who have a lot more experience than you. I've learned from workshops. I learned early on working with actors who were in the industry for 30 and 40 years, picking up tips, being around those guys and girls, and just kind of like applying those principles to my everyday work, and having a strong work ethic. So I think once you get beyond that first 3 years, no matter what your craft is that you're chasing, man, I think that's when you start to really see your goals coming together, and that's when you start to see the achievements racking up. Because my first 3 years, I was just taking and doing everything I could, just to get myself out there on the scene and to gain a little bit of notoriety. And now, the past 7, 8 years come back is when I'm starting to see the fruits of those labors.
Mhm.
Coming on a lot of shows and getting to do these interviews with people like yourself, man. I'm very appreciative of that because they see what you're doing. This is something we weren't doing 10 years ago,
Mhm.
and we're doing it now. And we're getting our work out there, like I said, with streaming, in front of millions of people. Who knows how many people see it? I'm not saying that we got as many eyes as Hollywood, but we got so many more than you used to. That I got people that'll message now in Vegas and Texas and in the UK, especially. They love American cinema because they watched your work. And the first couple of times you hear that, man, it's mind blowing because you realize there's a world outside of your own market that sees what you're doing, and that's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, most definitely. So 2020, kind of shook the world to its core. At least I would say the U.S. was impacted the heaviest. As
Yeah,
far as things coming to the halt for the longest, opposed to every other country that probably dealt with it for months compared to shoot. It was a little shoot. It's still going on for us, to be quite
Still,
honest.
still,
So
man.
a year strong. I'll say that. So how hard did it affect you in any way?
It did a lot. I mean, in terms of being able to film, nothing happened for our first, I'd say, 4 to 6 months. Things just completely stopped dramatically to where I was in the middle of a feature film when all this happened, and so
Mhm.
we had to stop production right then and there. We weren't allowed on the locations no more. Everybody was a nervous wreck, and rightfully so. And so that can be absolute hell for things like continuity when you come back and people's hair has changed, people's weight have changed, trying to get back to that. And so that was a pain. And then, like you said, you've probably dealt with it too, because just finding your way into a grocery store, man, finding things the first month we couldn't find toilet paper. I know you probably dealt with the same thing. It
Man.
took 2 weeks to get a pack of toilet paper in the house. I'm like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. So yeah, it impacted us a lot, man. Some people in a good way. Me, it definitely impacted me in some positive ways, because I know my wife and myself and my daughter, we all kind of started eating even healthier and changed. We're at home a lot more often, and so we got to know each other even better, and eating better, and we started working out better. And so for us, it became a little more healthy. We're a little more conscious about the things we do and where we go now.
Mm.
Not that we want to be, the whole world's under a mask right now, and it's crazy, but we're starting to finally get around without them again a little bit, at least in our area. But it's just, you never see anything like it. Is like, honestly, I just felt like a third world country all of a sudden. It was weird. You couldn't go anywhere. People were showing up in the grocery store in hazmat suits. People that
Mm.
used to talk to you were running and going the other way, man. And I just, it was the weirdest, most bizarre feeling in the world. You thought it was the end of the world for a minute.
Yeah, when I heard the report about them saying that last year was the first time they cleaned the New York train system ever, I was like, what?
That
Like,
hurts thinking about it.
yeah, like that's
Mm,
ridiculous. I'm just
yeah.
like, and I could
Uh,
just imagine what else fell to the wayside prior
mhm.
to this pandemic. So
Go.
it's for a lot of people. I always say that it was the best worst thing to happen.
For sure, man. I think as a country, we've become a lot cleaner,
Hmm.
a lot more aware of your surroundings and the things going on around you. But yeah, man, I think we're still going to suffer the effects of this thing for maybe a couple of years to come. It sounds like so. And some things it may never go back. This may be the new normal for a lot of things. But I don't know about where you're seeing in Maryland and Washington, but like things are starting to finally come back over the last few months here, to where there's places, if you're vaccinated, we can go into stores now. You're not having to wear the mask unless you want to. Not everywhere. There's still places that require it. Just getting out and being able to go into a restaurant again. I don't think I sat in a restaurant for nearly a year. That was weird, because before that we would go out to eat at least once a week, and just being able to go out and go to a bookstore, man, and pick up something off the shelf that you couldn't do for so long. I'm like, I'm starting to feel like a normal human being again, but we don't want to take it for granted now, right?
Yes, you and me both, man. I told myself when it's safe, the first thing I want to do is like go to Red Lobster and sit down and enjoy it,
That
a good
sounds so good. Uh,
meal. But you know what I did in January, because I haven't been to the movies in so long. I got a couple of friends and we rented out an AMC theater. They was letting you do it for $100. And I just like I want to go to the movies. I don't care what we say. Like,
Man, it's
and
been over a year since I've done that. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, just so many AMC theaters. I mean, are they all shut down around you? Because I think I have two in my area that are open. There's
No,
there's not many.
most of them are open,
Okay.
partial capacity, from
Okay.
what I know. So I'm waiting for it can, I want to say everything to be fully open to like, feel comfortable and go in and, sit with a room full of people. But, when I rented it out, it cost us, I think I paid $20 and then it was 4 other people. And, they put up the rest. It cost $100 to get it, but we had the whole theater to ourselves, so
That's nothing. Listen, you take you and the missus out, man, or whatever. You spend $40 already by yourselves anyway anymore to go to a movie. $100 is great for a group.
exactly. So that
No,
was a
that's
good
fantastic.
thing.
Yeah,
But
that's awesome.
the snacks wasn't cheap though. They was the same price.
Yeah, all that. No, I was just talking about it today with my daughter, because we're a big fan of the Conjuring series, and there's a new Conjuring movie out.
Mhm.
And I was like, we should go and check it out now that you can finally get back to a theater. And she's like, Dad, we got HBO Plus, so it's going to be free on there for the next month.
Mhm.
I just found out. So instead of going to the movies, we're going to watch it here. But one of these days, man, I got to get back into the theater because I miss it. That's, there's no experience like sitting in a movie theater and watching something new.
Exactly. It was crazy how much content was released last year because, people were going to be sitting home and they each platform wanted somebody using theirs more than the other. So they was like, instead of releasing something every month, it was like, you're going to get 12 movies this month and 2 TV shows next month. And
Right.
this is like, throw it all out there, throw it all out there. And I was just
We're just
like,
going to binge everything.
yeah. I could,
But in some ways, that was fun too, right? Because it gave you something to do while you were stuck at home.
oh,
But just getting back to the experience, man, is great. Like what you did. I wish I would have done that. I didn't even think to do that at the AMC theater. That's awesome.
yeah. Once I saw that flyer on Facebook, I believe it was, I was like, oh, yeah. I could do that, I
Yeah,
want to
that's
get
not
out the
bad.
house. It was
Heck yeah.
crazy, like I sat in my house and watched, four walls for so long. I was like, I can't do it. Like I felt like all I did, and essentially that's what I did. All I did was go to work and come home. I was an essential worker, so
Right.
thank God I wasn't laid off or anything. I had to deal with the whole unemployment thing. So, you
That's
know,
not for
yeah,
sure. It's a nightmare. And
and
it still is. From what I'm hearing from people, they can't get them on the telephone ever. So I don't even, I can only imagine what they were dealing with. Sure, I guess some of them got extra money for a little while, but was it worth all the hassle you had to go through? I don't know.
a friend of mine's got laid off and he didn't get his first payment for 7 months.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah, so he got all his money retroactively, but 7 months is still 7 months without.
7 months, you could lose a home. Your utilities are shut off. I mean, that doesn't help. I mean, yeah, you get the money back, but what about what all you went through for 7 months, right?
Exactly.
Oh
So
man, that's
stress
a
and other stuff like that probably made it a lot worse.
for sure. No doubt about it, man. Thank God he got it, and sounds like we're all starting to move in an upward direction again. So let's knock on wood to that,
You say that again.
right?
So you said that you were actually in a feature film when the pandemic I say the quarantine hit. Did they ever start up production again?
We did, yeah. We actually just wrapped production on that. I want to say it was 3 weeks ago. So we got back to it. We were shooting on weekends when we could get the crew around and just trying to make sure everybody looked the way they used to. We've been back working on it for the last, I guess, 3.5 months, trying to get all the pieces together that we couldn't get the first time. And
Hmm.
some things we had to go back and reshoot. And so, yeah, we finally finished it. It's a paranormal thriller. And so just it can be a nightmare though for things like continuity. Like I said, some people changed weight. And, one of our girls, her hair, one of our actresses, her hair grew like 4.5 inches.
Hmm.
And so we find instead of making her get a haircut, there was a few scenes that we had to kind of hide her hair and tuck it behind the collar of her shirt so that people didn't catch on. At least we hope they don't. Just you had to hide little things to make her look the same as they did. And that's no one's fault because who could have predicted for that, And it was just crazy, man. But yeah, it's back. It's finished. We're going into post production on it and should have a trailer out in the coming months. So we're real excited about that because some of my favorite horror is like paranormal type thrillers as opposed to blood and guts. I've done it all,
Hmm.
but I really, really enjoy. Like I'm a big fan of the Supernatural series. I don't know if you ever have seen Supernatural. Just finished up
It
last year.
it's funny. I'm watching season 15 right now.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I won't ruin anything for you then, man. But I've loved that series since the beginning,
So
even in the downtime.
so let me ask you this. So without giving any details, were you glad with the ending?
Yeah and no. There were a couple of things I would have liked to have seen happen, but overall, I'm satisfied. And I don't want to like give away anything to you. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Because there is a couple of shockers in there, man, and you'll dig them. But a couple of things I would have liked to have seen come to fruition that didn't. But I kind of feel like because of the pandemic, they were rushed to come to a conclusion.
Hmm.
So I think coming to the one they did under the circumstances, I think it was sufficable. I think people will accept it. I know that I'm okay with it. I think if given we didn't have COVID going on, I think there was a couple of things that they would have finished up on. and maybe, you know, kind of dug into a little bit deeper things that you'd seen go on for the last 15 years that you wanted to follow up on. But I think they come to a pretty good resolution given everything that the world's gone through for the past year. I think, you know, most people accepted that.
Okay. So, because, you know, my whole thing is when you love a show like that, you would want it not to leave out on a cliffhanger, but you wanted to finish strong. Like, don't
Yeah.
peak and then valley at the end. Like, don't do
Yeah,
that.
exactly, man. But I tell you what, though, anytime you get attached to a show or a long running series, I think no matter how they end it, you're going to be slightly disappointed because you don't want to see it go. You know what I mean? Friends went off the air, what was it, 17 years ago, and I still miss it. You know, so it's like you're never ready. But they just had the reunion, so it's up on HBO right now. So I kind of got my fix right there to see that. But I think once you get attached to certain characters and stories, man, like no matter when it ends, it's too soon for you, right?
Oh yeah. Were you a fan of Dexter?
I only got to see like the first half of season 1 of Dexter, but I did like what I saw, man. One of these days, I've said that's the show that I'm going to get back to again because I know I can probably unstream it all now. But how many seasons did they finish with?
They did 8, but I just
8.
saw
Okay.
a trailer yesterday. They're bringing it back.
Are they really? So
Yeah.
like a reboot, or are they going to like pick up where they left off?
I guess essentially they're gonna pick up from where they left off, but like it was real
Okay.
short, and it just showed him like walking and looking to a store that had knives, and
Okay.
that's all they showed. So it's like everything's to your imagination what could possibly be. I know that he's supposed to be in like some little small like harbor town,
Okay.
but it doesn't give any other information than that. And I'm just like, well, the way it ended, I'm like, I don't know how they're going to proceed from this. So
See, now I'm going to have to go and like get caught up and get myself to that point. So when the new one comes out, I'll be able to see it. But that's definitely one of the shows I wish I would have gotten back to for sure.
yeah, I think you're going to thoroughly enjoy it.
Good.
You're going to get hooked halfway through season 1, season 2. You're going to be like, oh wow, this is crazy. And then season 3, you're going to be like, there's no way he can keep going on, but he does for 5 more seasons.
They figure it out, man. Yeah, that's all. Once you get past that season 3, man, I think you're really onto something, you know, because a lot of shows don't make it 3 seasons anymore. I think,
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, as an actor, does watching TV shows and doing movies, because you have the experience behind the scene, does it make you kind of I don't want to say picky, or do you like critique shows differently from being experienced but being behind the camera and like noticing things?
Yeah, man, it changes so much for you. I mean, I'm still a fan. If I'm not on that particular set, I can still go and fan out to a show. You know what I mean? But when you're on the set and you see things, but I do find myself looking at certain things like continuity and lighting and sound and differences, things that I probably would have never looked at 20 years ago. But you see little differences, or the way somebody was wearing a coat, or you know, if a candle was moved in a scene. So sometimes I noticed early on I had to change the way I watched things because I was ruining things for my family because I'd be calling it out. Oh, no, you can't. There's no way. Did you see what they did? So I had to, after about a year or two back, I had to stop doing that and just let the show be what it is, you know, because it just ruins it for the people around you because you see it differently. You know, you see it as an actor, you see it as a writer, you see it as a director. And so you kind of envision what they did do or what they should have done, you know. And so, but I think you just have to set aside. If you're not part of that project, I learned that I'm just going to set it aside and watch it for what it is, man, and just make up a decision of how I feel about the characters and the story, and forget about the little things.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of cinema and TV shows, and you know when you're a kid, you watch everything with big puppy dog eyes, and then as an adult, you like, wait a minute, I didn't see that boom mic before when I was little like that. I see all types of mistakes, and then I
Yeah,
start notice like rhythm fights, like how they curate fights with like music and stuff like that. Like I pick up on
yeah,
how this stuff, and I'm just like, okay, so they timed it to go the fight scene to go with the music, and when it ends it valleys out. I'm like, okay, that's
yeah.
dope.
They can control the tempo a little bit. It's funny you said that, man. Because did you ever notice in TV shows, especially in the '90s,
Mhm.
it wasn't in the '80s as much, but in the '90s, you would see the boom mic a lot. Like I remember growing up, like if you were watching Beverly Hills 90210, I can't tell you how many times I saw a boom mic. And now that I didn't catch on to it back then, and something like that, they wouldn't let that fly today, man. But it was the normal back then. I'm like, it just dipped on a little bit, whatever, keep going. But
Yeah.
it's like, nowadays somebody would be fired for that. It would be like, no, stop, we're going to redo it. But it was funny how many times they let it go back, and not just that show, man. A lot of shows did it, and it was like, wow, we just saw the boom mic again. It was there for a full 3 seconds, and they just kept it going. So it was a different time, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think the money they was putting out there compared to what they doing, like I say, in like the past 10 or 15 years is a lot different. So they're going to get the best quality, and they probably paying somebody to make sure that their arms are strong enough that they're leaning in the wrong way, or missing cues. And it's like, I guess Eddington has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. So what they let
Like,
slip back then can't go today.
no, for sure, man. It was definitely a different game, and it was probably kind of like a hurry up. We got to get it. We're on a time constraint with our budget. Let's just get it in. But now with editing software, so that boom mic does dip down into those, that first couple inches of your frame, but you can crop that out. If it's not coming down a full foot and it's only a couple inches, that's something that you can most definitely get away with now with the right editor, because that's software that wasn't available to them back then. And they probably could have eliminated a lot of that.
Okay.
But things have definitely progressed in a more positive direction in terms of cinematic.
What was something that kind of shocked you once you got behind the camera and saw the bells and whistles of production?
I mean, I think we learn something every day. I think in terms of like being as an actor, or you mean more so?
Yeah, it's like you said. Okay, I didn't know that's how they did that. Like how they switch out walls or something like that.
Yeah, man. I think how we would cheat a scene. Like, so we've made one location, or what something you might look at, like the room I'm in looks like one location,
Mm-hmm.
is finding out how they can make 4 or even 5 different areas sometimes look like one location by showing a wall here and a chair here, and you know what I mean, and showing the door over here. But it's all like, sometimes it's actually literally 3 or 4 areas being brought into one to sell a look that you're looking for. And I thought, man, and then never catching that on camera, because you don't get to see that when you're the viewer at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know, for instance, I did a house in a horror film that we used 3 different houses as one big crazy horror mansion that we were in, and it was never one house. There was 3 different houses that we filmed in. And we actually were able to make it all look like it was one place, all the way down to the paint and the woodwork and different things. And that's something that like kind of blows your mind, because you think when you watch it home, like, that all took place in the same house. That's the same yard. How could it be any different? And it's not. And sometimes it might be a different exterior as opposed to an interior.
Mm-hmm.
And so and you don't realize it, like how often people do combine areas and locations. Man, I think that's, to me, that kind of struck me as pretty cool, seeing that for the first time, because then I start to learn and think about what I can do, especially when you're on like a lower budget and you need to add to your set, and thinking, okay, we can start combining locations as long as they look legit.
Mm-hmm.
And so scouting, I think, is a big part of that. Those really have the right people out looking for the things you need, not just combining any locations, because you can't do that,
Mm-hmm.
but finding different areas that can be acting as one. Man, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, especially like when it comes to like background noises and things like that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
So
just room tempo.
uh-huh. So I hear from like a lot of up and coming actors how crazy like call times could be on sets. Like how I don't want to say how bad was it for you, but what was your experience with stuff like that?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I've had call times as early as 2 and 3 a.m. And I've had long days as long as 18 and 19-hour days, because they had to get the shots. Especially when you're on a Hollywood set and they got a budget, man, and we're not going to stop after 8 hours. Like, if they didn't get the 5 scenes they set out for that day, or those 4 scenes, like sometimes it's only 3 scenes, and it might take 15 hours to get them. So I think just those long days, man, whether you start at 7 a.m. or 2 a.m. and if you do a 12 to 17-hour day, it's crazy, man. I don't mind it though. Like for me, it's a high. If I know I got to be on set at 3 a.m., I'm the guy that's there at 2:15 in the parking lot waiting. I'm getting ready because I want to know everything that's happening that day. Like it's still the same high to me as it was 11 years ago. And just being able to go out there and do my thing and learn. I want to just break the whole thing down. Now, I'd rather not work 17-hour days, you know, but I don't mind the early call time when we're really enjoying our craft. But it can definitely weigh on you, man. It can take a lot out of your body physically and mentally, for sure. But it's part of the business, you know. You get used to it over time.
They say when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Exactly, man. I'll work day or night when you really enjoy it. And not everybody gets to do that. So, I mean, I'm very, very fortunate to have been able to do the things I have.
Man, that's dope. I never actually been on like I guess a big production movie set, you know, something
Okay.
small and independent, you know, like a studio scene or something like that. But I know that feeling got to be crazy, like especially like you know, like A-list actor comes through the door and you just like, all right, I can't fan out, but you know, this is such and such right here, you know. I want to take a selfie or something.
You do, and it's kind of like a no-no on the set. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You learn that real quick that you can't. But like for me, one of the first things I did when I came back was Dark Knight Rises. It was being shot in Pittsburgh, and man, like me being a huge Batman fan, you know, I got cast for a small part after, you know, just standing in line with 2,000 people just to be seen by a casting director, you know.
Hmm.
But getting there and the way that I've talked about this with a few people recently, the way they transformed Pittsburgh into Gotham City,
Hmm.
it didn't feel like Pittsburgh anymore. I mean, I felt like I was legitimately in Gotham City. It was a summer days and it was, man, it was like 91, 92 degrees out, but we had fake snow everywhere. And so we had to do fight scenes and different things in the streets, and you were wearing full gear and clothes, and you were sweating so bad, but you had to make out like you were freezing, you know? And so, but it's just to see that transformation and the money that went into a set like that, and watching the Batmobiles come down the street past you, and here comes Christian Bale and Anne Hathaway, Tom Hardy standing next to me getting ready for his lines, and I'm freshly back to the scene, man. I hadn't been a part of the scene in 13 years, so I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. Just to be around it.
How crazy was that you were actually in a film from like a comic book series that you grew up reading? Like that had to been like
Yeah.
mind blowing.
It is, man. And to this day, it's the biggest production I was ever on. You know, I say it's not the biggest, you know, scene I've ever had, but there are no small rules, as they tell actors, right?
Hmm.
And so, but it was a huge learning experience for me, and being on that set, man, meant so much to me. If it was the only thing I did when I came back to the business, then great, because I was part of Batman and part of that history and
Hmm.
part of that trilogy, man. It's pretty super cool, man. Not everybody gets to do that, and to say I stepped foot in Gotham City, man, that's not too many people get to do that. That was pretty badass.
I know you got plenty of pictures.
I did, yeah. And like I was afraid to show anybody for like 3 years because you have to sign agreements that like
Hmm.
with that particular set, they were haywire. They went nuts about people having phones on set. You had to lock your phone up in lockers. You weren't allowed to take pictures. You weren't allowed to do selfies or, you know what I mean, anything like that, because they were afraid of it getting out. But by the same token, you know, a lot of the people that lived around the areas in the apartment buildings were outside taking pictures, and everything leaked anyway because they would tell them to stick their head in to do a scene, and you know, the people that lived there, the locals, would just poke their head out in the middle of a scene anyway, and without their windows looking, and they'd have to stop production. And you know, so the stuff that did get out there, most of it wasn't from people on the set. It was just from local people living in the area that wanted to see Batman and wanted to, you know, leak things to the media. But yeah, it was crazy though, man. I didn't want to show anybody for a while. Like, I got to keep this to myself. But I'll get uncredited or something.
Most definitely. I love DC Comics. Their live action movies haven't been that great in the past 10 years or so, but their animated films are A1. If those were to ever get released in theaters, I think that they would be, doing Marvel numbers in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, man. I think the fan base there has grown like leaps and bounds. And I think maybe the reason with film it isn't, but it's because they keep recycling it so often. Like you don't really get a break from the film version, you know. And
Hmm.
so, like, in fact, every time I turn around, there's a new Spider-Man, right? If you get a little bit of break, you can like take it in. I was still trying to absorb the Tobey Maguire years, and then we've had like four since then, right? So they do cycle them a lot more than they used to in the 80s. And like for me, for the longest time, I mean, yeah, there was Adam West, but the only Batman in my eyes was Michael Keaton. And then all of a sudden, forever. I mean, he's Batman to me. But I love Christian Bale, what he did. But I think we've seen so many of them now that like not everybody can live up to, what Batman should be. And I say that because for me, Batman, what I loved about Michael Keaton is there was a lot of good Batmans out there. There was a lot of good Bruce Waynes. But with Michael Keaton, I definitively saw Batman and I definitively saw a separate Bruce Wayne. And I think he killed both characters. And not everybody can do that.
To me, Michael Keaton brought Bruce Wayne to life. Like I always had on that argument. We discussed like it's been like 3 different Jokers in the past 20 years, right?
Yeah.
I always tell people if you pay attention, Jack Nicholson brought the TV series Joker to life. Heath Ledger brought the cartoon Joker to life. If you really want to debate who was the better Joker, it's 2 different things,
Sure.
So Joaquin's was great, and
Yeah.
I think that was a very powerful movie that came out last year, and a lot of people just went for it for action, but it was so many messages and innuendos in it. It was just, you know, it was just a star-studded, a great film that I think needs more praise than what it's been getting. I mean,
I
it
agree.
won plenty of awards, but it was like, should have been movie of the year in my opinion.
No, I completely agree, man. And there hasn't been a lot of Jokers over the years, but those 3 guys that you just described, every one of them were awesome in their own right because they didn't try to outdo each other. They didn't try to compete with each other. They did 3 separate things, man. They brought you 3 different Jokers, and every one of them were fantastic, man. I've tried to find which one I like the best, and some days I can't. I used to think it was just Jack Nicholson before the other 2 came out, and I find myself loving all 3 now and in different ways. So I really think, yeah, I would have loved to have seen Heath Ledger get to do it one more time because I'm kind of teetering toward what he did. He really brought the dark side of the Joker out. But I would have loved to. I think they were kind of on pace for him to come back with that character, before he met an untimely death, rest his soul.
Yeah.
But I really love what he did. But man, was Joaquin something special or what? That was different.
Man, I was blown back because I don't like trailers giving away too much, but it's good when you get the exact, well, I don't say the exact opposite, when you get blown away by how much you don't see in the trailer when you go see the actual movie.
For sure. For sure, man. And they really sent the message with mental health. I think that's kind of something that they were really going after with that, and kind of got it out there that, hey, this is a thing. We're going extra dramatic with it, but it's a real problem. And so I think they were able to get that out there and make people even more aware of, what some people are going through in life that were tortured and, on a daily basis.
Most definitely. A lot of people don't even realize it could be something small or minute to them, but it can actually affect their life greatly, So, sometimes, they say you don't receive a message from anybody saying it. Only one person kind of like show you something that's, or help you retain certain information. Like, like for me, um, it was one of those things like I see like the comments of how many people started actually like, speaking about their issues based off of that movie and conversations about the movie and stuff like that. That's what makes the difference.
For sure, man. People were still talking about it right now. They were talking about it for months and months right after that came out. So they made an impact with that. And I'm kind of looking forward to see what they do next. I'm hearing rumors of sequels. I don't know how true it is.
Well, it's all types of things coming out that I try not to forget, but with cinema and everything open back up and productions getting back in the, I guess, the swing of things, it's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that was postponed that's back on the shelf, like
For sure.
I'm a huge fan of the Cobra Kai series, and
Oh yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing how they bring in Terry Silver and make that story kind of come together because I like for me I get real intricate with it. I'm a huge like 80s TV show movie fan, so
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
For sure.
it's kind of hard to see how it fits because it was crazy. He was this grown guy who was doing his business and he wanted to help his friend get back at a teenager. And I was like, that's kind of weird. But,
Yeah.
but he lost money doing it because Cobra Kai failed after that movie. And then he comes back. And I'm thinking, like, it has to be deeper than this. Like, because if that was
Oh,
the
for sure.
case and that was his friend, then why was he homeless, prior to resurfacing in the second season? I'm just like, and then him calling him and him coming back. I'm just like, something crazy is going to happen, and I want to see what the writers do with the project.
Yeah, they definitely have something in store. At least I'm hopeful, man. It feels like they do. And, like you said, man, the '80s was a great time, but yeah, they did things like that. You wouldn't. Yeah, why are these grown men trying to have their guys go and attack these teenage kids, right? But like back then, you didn't even think about it, man. I was a kid in the '80s. I'm like, this is normal, right? So you
Yeah,
fell in love with it, man. I love the Karate Kid series. I mean, I'm wearing Back to the Future right now. It's my favorite franchise of all time. I'll argue that till I die. I just love everything about the '80s. It was a great era in
Michael
film and music.
Michael J. Fox made you want to hoverboard. Like everything about that movie or that series, I should say, it made everything cool, and it kind of pissed me off because I expected all that stuff to happen, in the future.
Number two, yeah.
Yeah, like remember in the second movie when they had those Pizza Hut packets and they put it in the oven and then
Oh yeah.
within 2 seconds and
Within
it came
three
out
seconds,
big.
right?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I
I've
was
been waiting for
expecting
that.
that. So
That's awesome, man. Yeah, them hoverboards that came out, those aren't hoverboards either. They can
mm,
get rid of those now. I want to see the real thing. That's got wheels on it, man. Get that out of here. That's not a hoverboard. You
man,
know, I want the real thing. But yeah, you did. They made you believe it, right? Every bit of it, and you kind of fell in love with it. So it was a cool time, man. And just like with the Karate Kid too, same thing.
so I'm assuming that if they were to like come out with a remake, which I don't think they can really pull off, successfully, in my opinion, that's something you would try to join the project.
I'm on the fence about that, man. As a fan, and I'm
Hmm.
I'm looking at this from a fan's perspective. I don't want to see a remake of her. I'm kind of with Gil and Zemeckis on this, where they did something great for 3 films. The
Hmm.
only way I can get on board with it is if it is a legitimate sequel. And given the state of Michael J. Fox, they would have to come up with something really creative to make that happen. That so that he can still be on set, because without him, it's not Back to the Future.
Hmm.
You got to have Marty and Doc, or it's not going to be the same. Maybe it revolves around their kids kind of taking the reins, but they got to be a part of it. It would have to be, to me, a legitimate sequel, like a part 4, like this many years later into the future. And in which case, it's not the future that they knew, right?
Hmm.
So that's been changed. I just don't want to see a remake. I don't even with me in the project. I got to put my own profession aside and say,
Hmm.
because I can't see them topping it. They've done some cool things not long ago, where they were picturing what's his face from the most recent Spider-Man, and then they were just putting different celebrity faces on Marty and Doc's character to see what it would look like if they actually did make it.
Hmm.
And but it would be fun for the fan, but I don't think it would get the pop it needs, man. I don't think it would do it any justice unless it's a legit sequel.
Yeah, I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan, and no disrespect to Nickelodeon. It was a
Right.
great kids film, the 2 movies they came out with, but
Mm-hmm.
it's nothing like the live action originals. Like
Nah, for sure.
and I'm just like, and I actually, when I watched the toys that made us, and I realized, what it took to bring this to life and what they did with that movie and how it it was the number one independent movie, was number one movie in the country from April to November in 1990 until Home Alone came out the next month for Christmas.
Right.
And I was
Right.
like, I didn't even know, how big they were, you know.
No, I mean, remember, I was a kid back then too, but it was, you knew just how popular it was, and I was definitely a big fan of the animated series,
Mm,
and I did watch the movies. I don't know that they. I mean, at the time, I think it was pretty cool. I was like 11 years old, but I mean, it was a good time. Just to see it. But I do like the animated version best, no doubt about it. It was pretty super cool. But I believe they did do that kind of money though. They had the following, and Home Alone was going to be tough to top. So that's all about timing, right?
Man,
I was that crushed.
I I always praise Macaulay Culkin, for being a child actor, but I was like to be that famous at that age, life can never go back once you go that route, and
For
I hear
sure.
about child actors and how they become young adults at that age because of the business they're in and the career path they chose. And I'm just like, I couldn't do it, I try not to, you know, talk bad about anybody if they struggle with problems due to their career choices and stuff like that, because they try to cope and they didn't know how to handle the fame and stuff like that. So it's just like, I appreciate your hard work and your sacrifice and bringing entertainment and joy into our lives.
For sure, man. Sometimes a little success too soon is an issue, and I think it's better in that particular business. Sometimes it's better that you get it a little bit later, maybe in your late teens or into your adulthood, 20s, 30s, whatever. Because then by then you've learned to appreciate and respect what you've had to do to get things, and then you didn't get it all at once, so you didn't just top off at the age of 9, right? So
Hmm.
it's like, how do I outdo what I just did at 9 years old? How do I outdo, or do you get typecast because of something you did for 2 or 3 films as a kid, and then when you become an adult, maybe they don't want to take you serious, and that's hard for an actor, man. That's been a very common problem, for actors for years. Some have broke the mold and been able to reinvent themselves as adults.
Hmm.
But for me, I'm kind of glad I'm coming back when I came back as an adult, because I think it's something that I was able to give myself more range. I didn't have any star power as a kid, that's for damn sure. And I think that, like, I'm still fighting and climbing my way up the ladder. So I think that you appreciate every bit you get. But then you don't feel like you plateaued either. I always feel like I still got a lot more to give the business. And I
Hmm.
think when you get that fame that early on, I think a lot of it, I think a lot of them fold under the pressure, man. A lot of them crack under, because it's a lot of pressure and responsibility for somebody that young to handle, and rightfully so.
So does the possibility of landing like a huge role that'll make you like super famous, does that scare you at all?
No, man, I'm open to it. I live for that moment that I just kind of. I mean, I've had a wonderful career on the independent scene, and I make appearances in Hollywood films, so I've gotten to do a lot more than most people get to do in the industry.
Hmm.
But I just know that, like, that's kind of what we're striving for. At the end of the day, you want to leave your mark in your profession, no matter what it is. So I
Hmm.
think that that's something that I've built myself up to this point, that I'm ready to make that impression that people are talking about 30 years from now, I hope, over something that I did, even if it's just one thing, because it gives you a little legitimacy to what you worked hard for. And I think that I'm at a point in my career where I'm ready for that. And I'd like to do that at least, once or twice before it's all said and done, because that's the goal. I've done a lot in independent, and like I said, I get to do some things in Hollywood, but I really want to make my mark there, on the big stage. And me being a wrestling fan, I say it all the time. Every guy that's out there killing them on the indies, they still want to go to WWE at some point. They
Hmm.
still want, to go to WrestleMania and have that big match at least once, right?
Oh
And I
yeah.
think that's we do that as actors too. We want that big one just once, right?
Oh yeah. So you started out watching the WBF?
Yeah, man. I did. I was a big fan from the early '80s, probably from the early Hulk Hogan years on.
Hmm.
And still, like, but everything in the '80s and '90s I love. Today's game, I love the things that are really outside of WWE, the independents, New Japan, like what's happening in AEW. Love NWA wrestling. There's a lot of cool things going on, but it's really after the Attitude Era, they really plateaued in the industry, and so they're out there finding ways to reinvent themselves now too. And I think just over the last 3 or 4 years, they're finally doing that again. But I felt like there was a drought for 13, 14, maybe 15 years, to where it was just more of the same, and they hadn't been able to top what they did back then. And I think they're doing some interesting things now. I think with having the rivalry, TNT now having AEW again, and the independents are rising, it almost feels like the territories are out there again. And that
Hmm.
makes the business interesting. I mean, you can't, if you buy up all your competition, then the fans are going to get bored at some point. They like having that competition so they can go back and forth and see what's happening out there, and compare products. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I lost my passion for wrestling in like the late '90s when I just kept seeing like the bad guys like back in the day it was bad guys versus good guys like
Correct.
NWO and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So they just kept like becoming bullies, and I just was like, I kind of see where this is going, but
Right.
nothing was like when Hulk Hogan went up against the Ultimate Warrior back in the day, or Sting would come out and beat somebody with a baseball bat. Like that was
Yeah. Yeah. Those were great times, man. And that's about where I turned off for a couple years myself, right at the end of the Attitude Era after the '90s.
Mhm.
And but I found my way back, man. I'm a big fan since I was a kid, and I'm seeing a lot of things in the industry I love again. And I've been a part of a lot of cool wrestling podcasts too, getting to talk business with people in the business, which has been pretty cool. But yeah, love seeing what's going on again right now, though, man. It's a good time to be a fan again as a wrestling fan, anyway.
Did you meet any wrestlers?
Yeah, I've met a lot over the years. But with the podcast that we were doing, we got to interview Al Snow, who I thought was always pretty fun to watch in WWF. We had Kenny King on the show. A lot of the Ring of Honor guys were on there. We interviewed Thunder Rosa, who's now blown up with NWA and AEW and her own promotion that she owns, Mission Pro Wrestling, man. With the ladies, they're out there doing some wonderful things. So yeah, I've gotten to do some pretty super cool things. I worked on Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies, so I worked with Roddy Piper, who was one of my childhood idols, and Shane Douglas, the franchise, got to go work with those guys, Matt Hardy. So that was kind of
Okay.
cool. We were all on one set together, man. And Hacksaw Jim Duggan. It
Oh
was just,
man.
yeah, man. We had some really cool ones in there. It's a weird concept of a film, but if you're a fan of zombies and a fan of pro wrestling, man, and especially wrestling from the '80s and early '90s, you'll dig this because it kind of meshes the two worlds together. But just being there with Roddy Piper and hanging out with him on set, man, that was pretty cool because there's a guy that leaves an impression in your mind that you just never forget about.
How was he off camera?
The same as he is on. Yeah, he's wild, man. High strung, but a great dude. If he likes you, he really likes you, And he took a liking to me, which I'm very, happy to hear because he and I were stuck together on our lunch break in Parkersburg, West Virginia, in an old prison with no power, no heat, no water, electric, and everybody went out to eat. And I thought I was coming from Pittsburgh, man, so I drove down 3 hours each way to be on set for a few days, some long days. And I come down the tunnel and I thought everybody was going with me. I didn't know where to go. And here comes Piper. He's there chilling. I said, "Aren't you going out to eat?" He goes, no. He goes, I got stuff in here, man. He goes, "I'm going to check this place out." So we spent our entire lunch break walking around this prison, man. That was with no heat and electricity, checking out all these old rooms and just telling stories and cracking jokes together, man. That was an experience I got to have. If I would have gone out to lunch that day, I wouldn't have got to do that with Hot Rod. Just looking at the interrogation rooms and hearing his commentary on it. But what you see is what you get, man. If Hot Rod's all riled up, he's the same guy you see on camera. If he sees something on set he doesn't like, he's going to say it. He's high energy all the time. But what people don't always realize is he's been a SAG actor for a number of years since the '80s, and he's a fantastic actor. They Live is still one of my favorite films, man. It has one of the best street fight scenes in any film that's ever been made.
With him and Keith David, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I love Keith David, man. That dude is hilarious. But that was to me, that's still one of the best street fight scenes I've seen in a film, and it's been a long time. You can't top it.
Yeah, he was in.
Put the glasses on.
He was in Men at Work with Charlie Sheen and
Oh my
Emilio
God,
Estevez.
that's one of my favorites. That is one of my favorite Keith Davids, man. He was provoking me. He kidnapped the pizza guy, man. I fell on the floor in tears.
Oh man, it was funny. I forgot the dude. He was in that movie Summer School. That was the pizza guy.
Yeah. Oh man, his name. He was wasn't he Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well? One of them.
I think he was
Maybe the remake. But anyway, yeah, he was definitely in Summer School. You're right. But that Men at Work was I have a copy of that, man. I watch it once a year just for fun. It's a good thing.
I watch Beverly Hills Cop 2 at least once a year, once or twice a year.
Yeah.
The Last Dragon, The Dark Knight. It's certain movies that I can hear in the background, and I'll stop and sit down and watch like every time. Like it doesn't matter what place in the movie it is, and I'll
Right?
sit there and watch it. You know, it's just like nostalgia, man. It's nothing like it.
Nah, that's the best word to use for it is nostalgia, man. That's one of my favorite things in the world. Like I said, when I was working with Hot Rod, that was all nostalgia. All I could think about was him hitting Snooker with that coconut, you know. And he actually reenacts that in Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies, man. There's a coconut deal in there. You'll get a kick out of it if you ever get to see it.
I'm gonna check it out. I heard about the movie. I never saw it.
I think it's still streaming on Prime Video and yeah, a few other services as well. But yeah, it's out there, and DVDs are on Amazon still.
Well, speaking of Prime, I caught the trailer for Checkmate. I wanted you to tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, Checkmate was a good time for me. We shot that in 2016. It actually just come out last year. So that's also available on Prime right now. You can get the DVDs in Walmart and then I think Target and a few other places, Amazon. But yeah, it's an action thriller. It's an independent film, but it was shot in and around all over Pittsburgh, man. We had an independent budget, but it doesn't look like it. It's along the lines of a Jason Bourne type theme film. An action thriller where I play Checkmate, who is the villain in the film. He's basically in charge of human trafficking, things of that nature. I killed the old police chief years earlier, no, months earlier, I should say, and I kidnapped the new police chief's wife or his daughter. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. His wife wasn't happy with me either, but so I kidnapped his daughter, and it just leads to this whole, trying to get this money and ransom to kind of basically, flood our empire so that we can filter what we've been doing with human trafficking. And their objective is to stop us. Only nobody knows who I am. Nobody's ever seen me. And so to me, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I get to be that mysterious figure throughout the film. There's the daughter that gets kidnapped is kind of helped by this bystander that was just kind of in the wrong place at the wrong right time. And he's got a martial arts background, so he's able to keep her safe to a degree until I do actually kidnap her. And then now the police actually think that he kidnapped her himself because they don't know him, and he's kind of like that unknown figure that they saw on camera with them, but yet he's actually fighting with them to try to stop me. But yet we're both after him. I'm after him, and so are the police because they think he's the guilty party. They don't know it's my character. So it really puts things in a tailspin for this particular character. In fact, the film was entitled Bystander at one time, based on that character that was at the wrong place at the wrong time. But I think audiences seem to favor the term Checkmate, given the way things were taking place in the film. I don't want to give away everything. I don't want to give away the end. But for me, it was nice to have that. We had some martial arts scene. We had a lot of high action, a lot of drama. We had actors from all over, New York and LA and Atlanta, and the Pittsburgh area, of course, in West Virginia. So we had a nice mesh of talent. For me, it wasn't like same old, same faces that you worked with, 12 and 13 times. So it was really nice to get that fresh chemistry. And I think it was conveyed well on camera, man. I don't know if you had a chance to see it yet, but it was a lot of fun for me. If you like action thrillers.
It's on my watch list. I told myself once I saw the trailer, I was like, I gotta watch this weekend because, just on my downtime when I'm not editing or
Sure.
anything like that.
I hope you enjoy it, man. We had a lot of fun filming it. We used a lot of really cool locations in Pittsburgh, and the mayor was really good by us, and the chief of police in terms of landing locations and shutting down roads and providing police units. It was super cool, man. It made us feel like we had a multi-million-dollar budget when in fact we didn't. But we had a nice budget for an independent, but they certainly helped us to make it look a lot bigger.
Did you ever get hurt doing any of the scenes?
All the time. No, I mean, like, not majorly injured, but yeah, I don't think anytime I ever do an action scene that everything goes perfect, In that particular movie, we're doing a fight scene toward the end, I'll say. And one of the actors I'm working with, man, great guy, great actor. I just kind of stepped into a punch he was throwing at me too quick, and he kind of followed through with it where we were off the page a little bit, and I took the punch straight to the middle of the forehead, and which was no big deal. You'd rather not do it, man. Like I was an amateur fighter for a little while, so it wasn't like uncommon ground, but when you're on set, it catches you off guard. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the cool thing about that was we all had a nice laugh about it. So anytime you hear somebody getting punched in the film, they dub that sound, and it's actually me getting hit for real.
Okay.
Which was kind of cool because you can't get more authentic than that in terms of fights. But every time I ever do, and I do a lot of my own stunts, and I feel like anytime there's a fight, something always happens where you accidentally get hit, or you bust a finger or something. Something that wasn't supposed to happen does, because it's not a perfect world, right?
Yeah, you're right about that.
But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I when I see certain movies, like I saw like I guess it was like an outtake or whatever of Michael B. Jordan taking the punch on Creed, and when I seen his body hit the ground, he was like, "Yeah, I was out for a second," and I was like, I don't ever want to get woken up from doing a scene."
Yeah, man, it's legit. I have a boxing film in the works, and when we did our short film Sandman boxing film, you accidentally, not accidentally, you take those shots sometimes for real to make it look good on camera, but sometimes you get a little too into what's happening, and
Mhm.
we've all been there, man. You're dazed and confused, and you don't know what just happened. You're like, I really walked into a good one there, man. But you know what? And also, in Michael B. Jordan's defense, it probably made for some of his best takes on camera too, because it doesn't get much better than that, because it doesn't look fake. It's real. What you're seeing there is very authentic, man, whether you're on the receiving end or not. It looks great on camera. And at the end of the day, that's what we want to do as actors. We want to sell it. I mean, Stallone has been doing that for years. I mean, I think he's even said it on numerous occasions. At one point, he got knocked out by Drago, Dolph Lundgren, because he was a real life fighter, man, and just a big dude to take a lot of impact from. And I think he walked into a couple, and you know what I mean. It took him a minute to get his bearings, but it's all part of it, But Stallone's a badass too, man. He just keeps coming, He's gonna get out there and he wants to sell it to the fans, and he sells himself as a fighter quite well. But because he was willing to take those shots, and he did it again in Rocky Balboa, he was in there taking real shots, with was it Michael Tarver, right?
Yeah. I think it was Antonio Tarver.
Antonio Tarver. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I'm combining actors now. But yeah, so yeah, man. So they went out and did it. And you got to give them credit. Anybody that goes out there and does it, because it ain't easy. And every time I do it, and you take one for real, you're like, man, why do I keep doing this? But then you see the end product and the way people react to it, and then you're on a high again. You're like, okay, this is why I was doing that. But you don't want to make a habit of letting those things happen to yourself, for sure.
That's just like Jackie Chan. You watch some of the outtakes at the end of his movies and the stunts where he hits a wall or falls on his back or something. I was like, man, that's a lot of commitment.
Yeah. I mean, he's so durable, man. He makes it look easy, but man, he got so much energy and so flexible. But he takes a lot of shots for real, man. And those things you see him do, he does his own stunts, and that's not an easy thing for a guy to do that can also act like he does,
Yeah, it's incredible, but he's been doing it, I think, since the 70s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, maybe even longer. He's just an absolute incredible talent, man. And when you can do your own stunts like that to that degree, and still act at a high level, man, you're something special in the business.
Okay, so besides what you got coming out that you're working on, is any movies or projects you're looking forward to see come out in the future?
A Hollywood production or my own?
Hollywood production.
Oh, well, I'm really psyched about The Conjuring 3 that's out right now. That's the
Okay.
one I want to see. My daughter and I. In terms of what else could be coming out in the future, I'm interested to see what happens with the new. I heard that they're going with another Creed film again, so I'm kind of interested to see what happens with that and where they go now.
Oh, okay.
And that Stallone's got something in the makings with the Rocky character too. Like, I think they might even be two separate films, so that's kind of got my eye. And I always hear the rumblings of the remakes for Freddy Krueger and Robert Englund, and I don't think it's going to happen at this point. But
Wow.
recently it started to surface again, and it kind of got me excited. But it might just be the fan in me, But honestly, I don't know beyond that what's really supposed to come out, because we're still navigating through this world of COVID where we're just coming out and seeing a little bit of daylight now. So, I don't really know what's really been happening outside of our world, man. I gotta kind of see what's in the works out there. But I get excited for a lot of cinema. So whatever whatever it might be next.
Yeah, I see that they're pushing more of the origin of like villain narratives when it comes to these movies. So I see that coming. But back to what you said about Robert Englund, I saw an interview that he did a while back, and he was saying in the interview like uh, playing the character of Freddy Krueger kind of messed with him mentally. So um, it kind of shocked me when you said that he's possibly coming back to the franchise. I'm like, I wonder would he be doing in that? But it might have been something he dealt with internally and and got past or whatever. So that would be interesting to see because he was Freddy.
No, for sure, man. And he may not. Like I said, it might just be wishful thinking. The rumors surface all the time. But I could see, and I have seen the interviews you're talking about where that can mess with your head when you get into a character that deep and that dark for a lengthy period of time too, man. It can get with you. I mean, look at again Heath Ledger when he was the Joker, man. He was in that character so deep he didn't really come out.
Yeah.
So, but they also leave for some of your best performances ever. But it's with risk, right? It does take its toll.
Most definitely. Well, I see that you taking pretty good care of yourself and you maintaining a level head when it comes to that. So, you know, I wish you the
Trying.
best. Yeah, I wish you
Thank
the
you.
best of luck on every venture you got going on, and I look forward to checking out Checkmate this weekend. If I have some time this week, I'll check it out. But 9 times out of 10, I'll be free on Saturday, so I'll be able to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, send me a message. Let me know what you think. And good or wrong or indifferent. It doesn't matter, man. We're open to all of it. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of things people didn't like, and there's a lot of things they did. So, man, we're just glad that people are out there watching and taking a look at our work. So, I appreciate you taking a look at it.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. But man, this has been dope. I gotta have you back on the show, man. I enjoy having
For
this
sure.
conversation with you, man.
Yeah,
Especially getting the insight when it comes to the industry and everything. Like, I appreciate the details and everything.
my pleasure, man. Let's definitely do that again sometime. And I appreciate you having me.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So, why don't you tell my audience where they can reach you at and anything you want them to look out for?
Yeah, guys, you can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Everything is at Real James Quinn. Um, I have a TikTok. I don't use it often, but I do a lot of tweeting. It's really for the younger crowd, in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
I do have it because I was doing some fun things with my dog on there. It just passed away. God rest his soul. But anyway, yeah. So Twitter is a great place to find me. I do a lot of tweeting, so interact with me on there, man. That's awesome, and I love Instagram too. So Real James Quinn, take a look.
Most definitely. You heard him, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys for listening today. I've been your host, the Landover Legend, aka Big T, and this has been another installment of the I Can't Make This Up podcast. That's I Can't, with a K, Make This Up podcast. You can find us everywhere podcasts are available, also Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you're listening to this, don't forget to hit the like, share button, and subscribe. And please support my guests and all their platforms and everything they got going on in their future endeavors. I would appreciate it very much. And until next time, peace.
I can't make this up. Being the wingman got me punched in the face by this crazy chick. I can't make this up. Gave this cool old man to ride home, now I'm harboring the fugitive. I can't make this up. Pinned between the fat chick and the speaker, now my shirt smell like her backside. I can't make this up. It's all bad cause my man about to get stabbed in his hand over french fries. Bet.
I'ma let T tell you that story one day, man. It's a good one.
And I'ma let the Landover legend do the rest. I'm out.
Bye.